We're looking at the remains of a dam and a wall here that was started in 1834 by Hiram Trammell.
Alpharetta is a special place. Over the years, it has evolved from a small town to a metropolitan leader in business, art, shopping, and dining, as well as continuing to be a wonderful place to raise a family. The future holds much promise for the city and for its citizens. But if Alpharetta is to grasp the future, it must not let go of its past. The city's earliest origins are still here, nestled among the trees that line a stream where men panned for gold, ground corn, and sawed the timbers that would become the first settlement of non-Native Americans in this area.
But Hiram started this, and I think he built the dam and the wall. When he died, Isom Teasley bought the property.
And some think that Teasley actually built the water wheel and the grist mill. Teasley, when he came in, had some money. Extremely expensive to build a grist mill.
Isom added a sawmill and a cotton gin.
Let's say you were at Farmhouse in the 1850s. Probably the first thing you would notice is the mill house, the water wheel, and just up the gentle slope, you'd probably find the cotton gin and the sawmill. Maybe even higher up the hill, you would find the store where the post office was.
This was on a trade route from the Lebanon community coming up the side of Burnett Mountain here, then crossing over into Webb Bridge area, going on up by present-day Bethlehem church site, on into Forsyth County. I'm saying that was a main trade route.
The fact that the farmhouse businesses were located on a crossroads was important when the Postal Service was considering whether or not to have a post office located there.
The old-timers say that Old Big Creek Church was organized up here on the mountain in 1828.
The church burned down many years ago, but the cemetery is still there, and many of the people buried there were among the earliest residents in the farmhouse community. The oldest couple buried there are the Webbs, Clinton Tolliver Webb and his wife, Christian Robinson. He was born in 1778 and she was born in 1777.
The early churches probably held a church service only one Sunday a month, and simply because they could not afford to pay the preacher for 4 Sundays a month. But they had Sunday school, and those 4 Sundays were looked forward to by the residents of Farmhouse because they got a chance to get together.
When I'm standing there at Farmhouse, I feel very removed from all the modern day conveniences that we have. You can't see the traffic on 400, you can't see what's going on up above you, but you can certainly envision what it might have been like to have the horses come through and to have conversation, maybe a card game going on here or checkers, maybe talking about how the latest crop is done and how your yield has turned out.
The farmers would work from sun up to sundown, and it was a lonely existence because if you're there during daylight working on the farm, you're not going to have time to be engaged in any kind of social activities. That the residents of Farmhouse looked forward running into their neighbors and talking. There was a Burnett family there all the way back in the 1830s, and they were a big family. And from what I hear, every generation produced musicians. They play guitar, play fiddle, and in slack times, probably on Saturdays, they would find a place to play music. They would probably also play where there was a floor big enough for people to dance, square dance.
One of the early residents of Farmhouse was Agatha Henry Maxwell. She came to Georgia from Virginia, and her uncle is the famous Revolutionary War patriot Patrick Henry of Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death fame. The grave that fascinates me is the grave of Andrew Morris, who died during the Civil War. But the story of his death is more complicated than that. He was not killed in the war. His headstone says he was killed by a band of evil men for no good reason. But actually, there was a good reason. He had some sort of disability and didn't have to go to the army, and he began messing with their wives while they were gone. When they came back from the war, they found out what he had been doing, and they executed him. There was a big oak tree in the cemetery, and that they hanged him from the tree and buried him where he dropped.
I thought it would be interesting to just kind of talk about the contrast of where we are. Back this way, on the hill up above, is tractors and workers that are going to be putting up a medical center several stories tall. At the bottom of the hill is the wall from the 1840s. That's still the remnants of the old mill, and it was existing up until the 1900s for sure. And then you go back this way a little bit, and you've got Georgia 400, and on the other side of that is a cutting-edge commercial development called Avalon. And so just in this 1 mile stretch here, we range from the early 1800s all the way to modern times.
While the documents and memories of Farmhouse weave their own story, there's still much to be discovered about the site. Both modern science and simple curiosity still reveal more clues to the full picture.
And we're going to start using some ground-penetrating radar to see if we can find any other structure to complement this deflection wall that would give us an indication where the grist mill floor may have been sitting or where the wheel may have been turning that would generate the power for the grist mill. We're building a grid pattern so we can tie our discovery together. Looks like we may be seeing a structure of some sort right in this area. If you look at these markers, you can see we've got linear patterns here, and they're roughly 12 to 15 feet apart. Another thing that I'd look for is there are a lot of what I would call historical plants that are growing on the surface here. You've got a great deal of jonquils or daffodils that are growing. They're out in the woods here. There's not been anyone here to plant those things. Additionally, on top of the hill, you've got a lot of forsythia that you see typically around turn-of-the-century homes. Those are plants that you see in a lot of historical sites. So we'll look for those things, and that would be another indicator that there was some type of structure, some type of activity that took place here.
So cool to be standing here on this original wall for the mill. I'm sure this was a water diversion spot, and actually there's something written in the mortar here. Looks like somebody scratched it. When the mortar was redone, I know that the wall was destroyed at one time, had to be remade, and so it looks like there's letters carved into the mortar, and actually there's a date carved into it. This looks like 1912, and there's maybe a letter C or a G. There's a J, an A, an R, an N. I don't know. This is amazing. To me, this is the coolest thing that we've found at this site so far.
Right now, I think the first step for Farmhouse and its development is to raise public awareness that the site is even there, what the site was about, what happened and functioned at that site, and how it's the original settlement, just to get the word out to the public. Secondly, it's to raise funding for the site, and that will be through private donations for basic fundamental things such as steps and handicap ramping to get everyone down there and so they can enjoy the site as a heritage park. It'll be part park, but also part educational with monuments and signs that detail what happened at this site, where we think the proposed shop was, where we think the water wheel was, and to begin those first steps, and then to rebuild part of those foundations so that people can get a glimpse into what a settlement might have looked like during that time.
I'm a native of Alpharetta, and I've had family in this area since the 1830s. And the fact that we have a facility that was in use in the 1830s is very important to me. My ancestors may have come and had their grain mill there. They may have bought material, needles or whatever from the store, and it makes me think that if we lose this, we'll never be able to get it back.
Not every city can visit their beginning, but we can here in Alpharetta. It's a place called Farmhouse.
And the school children, young people used to come over here and play in the water, swim. They called it Slick Rock. Can you see why? It'd be slick down there.
In the pines, where the sun never shines, and you shiver when the cold wind blows. In the pines, where the sun never shines, and you shiver when the cold wind blows. And you shiver when the cold wind blows.
We are at the location of what is called Farmhouse.